I'm Brenda Schmidt, and this is Jennifer Rees, and we were asked to present the same presentation that we gave at IFE. However, at that time, Raven was also on the team presenting with us. But in the spirit of what the HI behavior teams are all about, they're trying to enable us to go out and do this without the help of ISRC. So Jenny and I are here to give the presentation on a real-life story of us gathering data on a student. You're going to see all the mistakes we made. You're going to see all of the tweaks and changes that we made to our programming to make this work for a particular kid. And I'm actually talking about a student who's gone through Southwest program and then came to our program in Lincoln Way. So anybody that has knowledge of what we did, this is a real life story. If I say something inaccurate, if you could please just jump in and say, no, that's not the way it was. It was this way. So, okay, so what happened was 3 years ago, we had a 3-year-old student come to us whose name was Brad Pitt, okay? And he had been identified deaf late. He was identified at about the age of 2.5. They didn't really have any good responses on his hearing loss. So he came to us with no language. He came to us with lots of behavior problems. In fact, here's a pretty good list of what it was when we put him in preschool for the first time. He did hitting. He was a thumb sucker. He would kick things. He would throw objects. His favorite thing was to dive under the table all the time. Didn't want to do what everybody else was doing, so he'd dive under the table. He would threaten people, like mimic karate type action moves, give people the finger, 3 years old. Yep. He would take materials. He would walk and run away from things. He punched people, touched others inappropriately, stole toys, took property, pushed, and his favorite thing to do was close his eyes. Okay? So we had a kid who had a lot of behavior challenges and no real language to go with what he was learning. So what did we do? Okay, we're going to gather info on his behavior. We're going to collect info. So what are all the things he does? He hits, he kicks, he punches, he pushes, he throws, he threats, he grabs, he touches, all of those things. And we're going to chart that Monday through Friday and take a total. All right, everybody, let's go. So we went out eager as a team. We're going to collect data on all of this. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What was the problem? Quickly, we found out we had too many targets. Couldn't track them all. Couldn't physically even carry a clipboard with you or anything to track all of that. It was too complicated of a system. As we've learned, it's very likely to be inaccurate depending who was taking the data. We needed definitions of what is hitting to one person, what is kicking to another person. His behaviors did occur in clusters as well, so we needed to divide the chart up according to that. So what we did is we developed categories after taking a long look at it, right? Maureen was helping us with this. We decided to divide it into 3 different areas: aggression, inappropriate touching, and refusal to do work. Okay, so then what did that look like? We made a chart with the week number, and this was the day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? And then we charted how many times he had aggressiveness, inappropriate touches, and refusal to do work. And then the number of times he got a timeout for that was also charted just for our information as well. That was much easier to get results, much easier to track, and with that Excel sheet similar to what you had, can you guys see this kind of sort of? We were able to chart the different behaviors. The blue is the physical aggression, the white is the inappropriate touching, and the yellow is the refusal to work behaviors. So you can see over a period of 9 weeks, we were able to get an idea of which was the most disruptive behavior, which was the one we needed to focus on and pay attention to and try interventions for. So, I'm talking too loud now, aren't I? No? Okay. So we had to decide which was the most often occurring, which one was the most dangerous behavior for him and for others, which one took most of the time of the teachers and of his own educational learning time was being taken up by different behaviors. And then which one was the easiest and quickest thing to fix because you don't want to start out with a behavior intervention that's going to be a failure and take a year to show some results. You want to show something that's going to be easy to have results at first. So we decided to focus on the refusal behaviors. Well, how do you do that? Okay. First of all, why was he refusing? The two basic, I'm repeating what I've learned in these classes, right? The two basic functions of behavior are to either escape or obtain, right? So why was he escaping? We needed to figure that out. We had to think, does he have, how did he escape? First, what did it look like? Sorry, I'm getting ahead. He would suck his thumb, he would leave the area, close his eyes, and hide under the desk, often. I mean, if we were to do a tally mark chart, I bet you he was 75 times in a day under the desk. And then was the aggression or touching just another means to escape? We had to figure that out. So what we had to do, take into account the situation. He's a very young student, just recently identified as deaf, had no language, had no formal schooling up until this point. Could he actually even perform the task that he was being asked to do? Another challenge that this particular student had is he was in a classroom that housed preschool all the way up to second grade students. Okay, there were 12 kids in the room. At any given time, maybe 5, 6, 7 adults. And second graders aren't obviously doing what the preschool kids are doing. So he would get up from the preschool activity, walk over to the second grade kids, and, I want to do that. He didn't want to do what they're doing over there. So we had to, first of all, take into the things we could control. We couldn't control the environment. So not much. We tried. Okay, but we had to go back and look, does he have the skills? So what we decided to do as a team was to teach him to escape in appropriate ways. Okay, so how did we do that? Try convincing a team that it's okay to teach a kid to say, I don't want to do this activity, I want to do something different. But that's what we said. He had to be offered what the whole group was doing, the whole activity that the whole group was doing, and if he didn't want to do that, he had to sign different. And when he signed different, he had a chart that he could pick from that had 4 different activities on it, either coloring, cutting, blocks, sand table, but they were educational activities. So we were teaching him, you can escape because that's what you need to do, sign different, but he didn't know we were making him pick something educational to do instead. So he actually did do that. He actually did use the signing different. First we started with hand over hand. You have to say, no, you're not going under the table, get back out here. Hand over hand, no, different. And then quickly give them the reward. And we've got samples of what those charts look like. So we charted this, for every 5 minutes that he did something at a table, he got computer time. Computer was his favorite activity. So for every 5 minutes, and we set a timer, if you sat there for 5 minutes, he got to go on the computer. Okay. Again, we've got the blue is physical aggression, the purple is inappropriate touching, the yellow is escape, escaping in the wrong way, and then the orange is escaping in the correct way. Okay, so you can see that his behaviors from escaping in the wrong way by diving under the table, kicking, doing whatever it was to get out of it, went down, and the escaping in the appropriate way went up. So he did actually learn to say, I don't like doing this anymore, or I can't do this. He didn't have the language to say it, but he did learn a skill of different and went on to a different activity. So after a while, we considered that that was a pretty good intervention. Okay? So we modified the intervention. We said now that he's doing okay, different, picking a different activity, now he's going to have to return to the group before he says he wants to do something different. He just can't get up different, go get the activity and start doing it. No, now he has to say different, come back to the group, and then say different, and get up and go pick a different activity. Then we took away the choices as he used them. Before, he had all 4, he would do coloring, and if he didn't want to do that 5 minutes later, different, he could do coloring again. But this time we changed it so coloring, take it away, and then all you have left is puzzles, blocks, sand. And then for every 7 minutes, we increased the minutes that he had to spend at the table. So for every 7 minutes, he earned computer time. Okay? And I'm going to let Jen take over here. The progress continued. Whoops.
Okay, so after we did the new modified intervention plan, we see that, again, the blue is the physical aggression, purple is inappropriate touching, white is escaping the work area inappropriately, yellow is escaping the work area total, yellow is escaping the work area inappropriately, and then refusal to work positively, so saying the different, and then finally the timeouts. And you see that, as Brenda showed it previously, we're still continuing to decrease the escaping inappropriately and increasing the use of appropriate ways to leave the area. But we find out that Brad is now changing schools. So what are we going to do? What we did is that we had a meeting with all of the administration from his old school and from his new school. They shared data with me, they shared their planning, their progress, all of the challenges and concerns that they had. They showed me all of the visuals that they used and all of the supports that they used, and they in-serviced me on everything that they were doing. So I was completely prepared for what I was about to get into in the coming fall. We also met over the summer. If I had questions, I could ask them, and they would answer me very quickly. And they just provided support because they'd been there, they'd done that. And so they were just preparing me for what was to come. And then what happened? At the new school, Brad's behaviors were very much the same. The hitting, the sucking of the thumb, kicking, he was throwing objects, hiding under the table, the desk, threatening, etc., etc. And the behaviors were the same, but they had diminished. So that was wonderful. This was our new data collection system. We did the time and activity. We did it by about half-hour increments throughout the day, and we would write the activity. So not only did we know the time frame, but we also knew what activity. Was it more of an educational type of activity that these things occurred? Was it science time? Was it recess time? Was it structured activities? Was it unstructured activities? And then we charted aggression, inappropriate touching, escaping the work area, refusal to work, negatively and positively, and then the timeouts. And then what we also did was we defined the behavior, like we talked about earlier today. Aggression was hitting, punching, kicking, pushing, throwing, or threatening another person. Inappropriate touching was grabbing materials or toys or objects from another person, touching another person in an inappropriate manner. Escaping the work area was walking or running away from the table or hiding from the teacher or the activity. And refusal to work positive was obviously the signing of different, and negatively was doing the escape tactics without using different. Every week I would take all of that information on the daily chart and I would tally it into our weekly chart. So not only do we tally it every day, but I also summarized it every week. Again, Brenda went over, it was similar to what they used. It was the dates, how many tallies for aggressive, inappropriate touching, escape, refusal to work positively, refusal to work negatively, timeouts, and then we would average them by day. So was he aggressive 10.5 times a week? Determining a target behavior. Our focus in the new program at the new school was also refusal. We wanted carryover from his last because that behavior had not diminished or been extinguished. Our team wanted to continue to monitor the progress made. He had done so well with what he had been given at his old school, we wanted him to continue the progress at his new school. And like I said, continuation in case there was regression over the summer. A lot of times when a student is thrown into a new environment, the behaviors creep back up, they get more intense. Some new behaviors also pop up because it's a new teacher, it's a new school, new friends, etc. So again, we're still focusing on escaping because he's still escaping the classroom. He still sucks his thumb, he still leaves the area, closes his eyes, hides under the table and the desk. So I took some baseline data chart to see what I was working with, this is, again, a new school, a different environment, and we have aggression in the blue, inappropriate touching in the pink, escape, refusal to work positively, refusal to work negatively, and then timeouts. So throughout the weeks, you can see that it had diminished through August and September. We did the same thing they did at their old program. We offered activities with the group, and then when he started to get wiggly, we thought he was going to, duck underneath the desk. He would sign different. He would move away and choose from a picture chart of just basic school-type activities. We said before that he didn't know how to be in school. He didn't know at school that he needed to sit nice, that he needed to color, that he needed to attend to the teacher, because he didn't understand that those were school skills, and this is what we do at school. So he chose from school activities, learning how to cut, fine motor, coloring, gluing, blocks, Play-Doh, puzzles. These were fun to him, but they were also teaching him school skills. We would set the timer for 7 minutes, still increased from the previous year, and again, he would have to return back to the teacher table before he could again sign different, and we would still pull them off. So if he had 5 choices, then next time he would only have 4 choices. So he wouldn't always get to pick Play-Doh every time or the really fun activities. He would eventually have to cut something or do puzzles or glue something. Also, for every 7 minutes at a planned group activity, which we did increase, he earns 5 minutes of computer time, which was still a motivator for Brad. This is what our choice chart looked like. Oh, thank you. We have pictures of, we just used a laminated file folder, carried it around with us. We would change them up if we saw that he was getting tired of one activity that wasn't necessary for school-related activities like Play-Doh or coloring. Then we would switch them out and keep things fresh. But we would carry this around with us. He would sign different. He would go to his separate table, and he would get to pick. I want to color. So we would show him, take off coloring. He would get to color for 7 minutes, then he'd go back to the table. Then if he signed different again, similarly, he'd go to his table. I want whiteboard, then that would be gone. So this is what we used for his choice chart. Yes?
Was there a visual timer for him to
Yes,
set up?
absolutely. We used visual timers all over. We used when he sat at the table for the teacher time. We used it when we sat at the table, his own special table for this especially. And he was very in tuned to the timer. He would know when it would go up. Obviously, if he sat at the teacher table for 9 minutes, we weren't gonna, point it out, hey, look, it's 7 minutes. You can sign different now. So, but yeah, definitely used a visual timer for him. So the results in December were as follows: aggression was blue, inappropriate touching, escape, refusal to work positively, refusal to work negatively, and timeouts. As you can see, the refusal to work negatively has significantly decreased. He's not using the different as much anymore. He's actually sitting at the table, which is what we wanted to begin with. So it says identifying a new behavior, but as you've seen, we extinguished the negative refusal behavior. If you are all done with that and you see that you've extinguished that behavior, then you go home and you celebrate. You talk to the families, you talk to the teachers, and pat yourselves on the back. But unfortunately, with Brad, sorry, Brenda.
No, that's okay. I was going to say, you can see that the inappropriate touching.
Right. With Brad, we had other behaviors that we also wanted to take care of. So we patted ourselves on the back for 5 minutes, and then we got back into the trenches, and we talked about Brad's new behavior. I'm so glad he worked, because he didn't work before. What's me now?
Thank you.
There we go.
I just want to say, going back a little bit to the behaviors we were teaching him for appropriately escaping, which was something he wanted to do, all of the other behaviors were going on as well. But we were focusing on the escape behaviors. And I wanted to make sure that, or share with you our difficulties even in convincing some of the other teachers and staff that this was okay to do. Teaching him to escape appropriately rather than making him do the work was against everybody's, what? You're telling him it's okay to say, I don't want to do this work? How can that be? I think he should just be in the corner. And, we had a lot of convincing to do. But after we showed them over the weeks how this was working, they started to get a little bit more on board and help. But not everybody's going to be on board with you when you try to do some of this stuff. So the next behavior that popped up, or the next behavior we decided to focus on, which I guess this is an example of an intervention that worked and so we changed the target behavior, is we wanted to focus on which other behavior was the most often occurring, the most dangerous or disruptive, takes the most of your time and had the strongest impact on education and learning, and that turned out to be inappropriate touching. And you could see that through the charting as it went through. Inappropriate touching was one of the most bothersome behaviors, so we decided to focus on that next. So, why is he, next slide. Why is he inappropriately touching? What was the function of this behavior? We still think he was trying to, no, we don't still think he was trying to escape. We think he was trying to get attention, but didn't know the appropriate way to get attention. He got attention by slapping people, rubbing them, grabbing them, pinching other people's private areas, putting his hands on other people's private areas, putting his hands down people's shirts. There were all kinds of inappropriate behaviors, inappropriate touching, that we had to focus on next. So he has also continued with his aggressive behavior and continued that behavior of showing his middle finger to everybody too. That was shock value that he got. So our data collection was now going to include giving the finger, aggressive behavior, inappropriate touching, and then the number of timeouts he got because of that. Okay. So this is our data collection sheet. The times broken up during the day. They actually decided to chart how many stickers and X's he got. I think an X must have been a negative consequence, and a sticker was a positive. Okay. So giving the finger, charting the finger giving, the aggressiveness, and the inappropriate touches, the number of timeouts, the stickers, and the X's. That's how we charted it. Same thing, daily and weekly. And as you can see, the blue is giving the finger, the purple is aggression, the yellow is inappropriate touching, the green is how many timeouts he was given. I don't see any green on here though. Okay. The orange is the X's and the purple is the stickers. Well, something happened in the middle of week 3 where he had more off the chart giving fingers to somebody. I don't know, but that's where you can look at it and say, what happened that day that might have made him do this? And you could see that it was out of the normal too. But again, you can see a trend in the changes of the behaviors. We also, at the same time, did the teach, model, prompt, reinforce, that, what do they call it? Temper, right? Teach the appropriate attention-seeking behaviors to him, teaching that raising your hand, signing, those are the appropriate ones, and then rewarding him for that. You have to teach him that. Then you can't expect him to just do it because you taught it to him. You have to model it. And then we would prompt him with cues, picture cues, visual prompts. Then we reinforced it. When he got 5 stickers, he earned a preferred activity. And then we also gave consequences to inappropriate touching. He would get X's on his bad touch chart, and if he got 3 X's, he got a 5-minute timeout. Okay. He was smart enough to move the timer, too.
As Brenda said, we had all of these charts figured out for Brad, and we kept them in another little file folder. We taught him how to touch someone to get their attention appropriately, and we acted out what was inappropriate. So we showed him how he should behave, and we showed him what was not appropriate for school. So in here we have our sticker chart. When he did do a bad touch, he had to take responsibility for that and place an X in his own little bad touch chart with our little clip art there. And then when he did it appropriately, when he raised his hand, when he touched a teacher's arm or called out their name, then he got a sticker. And so when he got 3 inappropriate touches, there was a consequence, there was timeout. And when he got 3 appropriate attention-seeking behaviors, he got to get 5 minutes of a preferred activity. And on the other side was where we used to chart it, so it was kind of all in one, easy to carry around for us. And then, oh yes, also I put that all behind it. So it's kind of all in one. So by September, the aggression was still very, very high, but the inappropriate touching had all but been extinguished. He did continue to get timeouts, mostly for aggression, and he was continuing getting stickers. So he had learned to get attention appropriately, and he had stopped, using inappropriate ways to get attention from both teachers and peers. As I said, the escaping, the inappropriate touching, and the finger had diminished, but as you saw, the aggression was still there. So using our data from the charting that we'd been doing for months and months and months, we picked our new behavior that we wanted to target, which was aggression. And we decided as a team that aggression was due to a skill deficit. So our intervention was that we would teach, model, prompt, reinforce Brad to walk away when he's angry. So if someone steals a toy, instead of hitting them, we're going to teach him just to walk away or to sign fine, like that's okay. We had a lot of incidences where the other students in the classroom did not want to pick him to do activities when you got to pick a friend. So taking the attendance down to the office because, he displayed, inappropriate behaviors, and a lot of the other kids were tired of getting hit. So they would refuse to pick him, which would feed on that aggression, and he would act out. So if a friend didn't pick him to go down to the attendance office with him, he would, pick a different friend when it was his turn. Or if they said, no thank you, Brad, I don't want to go down to the office with you, he would just pick a different friend, or he would say fine or walk away. So we taught him an appropriate way to deal with that aggression. We will teach, model, prompt, and reinforce Brad to tell a teacher or say when he's not yet finished if a peer takes his toy. If somebody snatches the Play-Doh, instead of, again, elbowing, hitting, he would say that he's not yet finished. And all of these positive behaviors were reinforced using the prompting. So we acted out all the bad behavior, which was inappropriate, and then we showed him the positive. We had him and his friends act out the positive, so raising the hand, saying fine, picking different, etc. And we used lots of picture cues, verbal praise, because he wanted that attention, high fives, sticker charts, and then, again, the preferred activities.
How did he do after this? Explain a little bit. This ended a year ago.
Oh, yeah, it was a year ago.
Yeah.
This was, I didn't have Brett again this year. This worked for a while with him. I think he was getting kind of tired with the other sticker charts. So, towards the end of the year, he had diminished his aggression and he was using the not yet finished. When Pierce takes his toys, he was learning to walk away and pick a different friend. He never really signed fine, but that's okay. He picked what worked best for him. He wasn't comfortable saying fine, so he would pick a different friend or, walk away. So he did learn to use his aggression. At times, he still didn't choose to walk away, but again, it's a skill that we were teaching him. Right. He is mainstreamed into the kindergarten class last year. He went in, so he would be half a day in self-contained DHH, and then he was half a day in regular education kindergarten with an aide. He did really well academically. He would sit before. A long time ago, at the very beginning of the PowerPoint, we saw that he could not sit, he could not attend, he could not, do schoolwork without diving into the table or causing some sort of a ruckus, hurting himself or others. And now he was sitting in kindergarten class for up to 20 minutes for carpet time, circle time, work time. He was doing addition by the time he left kindergarten. So he made a lot of gains with all of his behaviors. And as you can see, a lot of times, behaviors impact the way a child learns. And so by slowly ticking down each behavior at a time, we got Brad to a place where he could be in a mainstream environment and live up to his full potential. Does anybody have any questions for Brenda or myself? Yes?
Did you also supplement it with reduced group?
counseling also, with the social skills?
We had a social worker come in for, I believe, what was 3 days a week? She was all day long. She did a group with everyone, and then she also did individuals. We did a lot of social stories and acting out and things like that.
My second question was, how often did you meet with the teachers, those teachers? Did you meet like once a week? I'm sure in the beginning it was
Every day. At the very beginning, it was every day.
kind of weaned off of that.
Yes.
And then it was
But it was still,
really hog your time.
right. At the beginning, we met with the classroom teacher every single day, and then we weaned it to once a week, and then it was more of a team meeting once a month. But yes, in the very beginning, the teacher was a little nervous, so we met every day and kind of, alleviated everyone's worries. Yes?
What was the adult-kid ratio?
I believe it was almost 1-to-1. There were 5 students in the classroom and anywhere between 3 to 5 adults in the classroom, in the self-contained classroom. Obviously, in the mainstream classroom, it was,
You had a one-on-one,
yes, correct.
and that you set up after his behavior improved.
He had always had a one-on-one aide. He came from his old school with a one-on-one aide.
But I mean, was he in that regular mainstream kindergarten that whole year?
He was for half a year, so starting in January.
He'd better just put him in that.
Correct. We weren't quite sure with all the aggressive behaviors if he was ready for full-on mainstream kindergarten at the beginning, so we wanted to wait until we had used the intervention for a few months and seen the behaviors decrease before we mainstreamed him into the regular education kindergarten.
It was really interesting to see that peer pressure had an effect on him. He actually behaved better when he was in with peers than he did in the DHH class, so it was pretty interesting.
Are there any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much.